Good day everyone, my name is King Joshua O. Milagrosa, and today I will be going to discuss about growth factor models, which is one of the used model in calculating trip distribution between each area. So, dito sa growth factor model, trip distribution can be calculated when the only data available is first, origins and destination. Second is base year and trip generation values. So, dito sa origins and destination, so ito yung mga available data between sa mga zone for the current years. So, dito naman sa base year and trip generation values, ito yung mga available data between zones for the future years. So, para mas lalo tayong maliwanagan, ano nga ba ang growth factor models? So, GFM method was widely used when OD data were available but the gravity model and calibrations for F factors had not yet become operational. So, bakit nga ba hindi pa operational si gravity model when it comes to GFM? So, simple lang. Kasi, when it comes to computing the trip distribution between each zone, so, si gravity model is nagre-reflect siya sa time unlike sa GFM na hindi. So, kaya hindi pa siya ganun or hindi pa siya nagiging operational. So, next is growth factor models are used primarily to distribute trips between zones in the study area and zone in cities external to the study area. So dito, since nagre-rely sila sa existing OD matrix, hindi nila magagamit to para mag-forecast ng traffic sa between zones na kung saan hindi pa nag-exist yung traffic. So next is the most popular growth factor model is the Freighter method. So, ano nga ba yung Freighter method? So, Freighter method is a mathematical formula that proportions future trip generation estimates to each zone as a function of the product of the current trips between the two zone Tij and the growth factor of the attracting zone G. So, dito, mahalaga tong Freighter method kasi ito yung mostly ginagamit para ma-compute yung trip distribution. So, Freighter method can be written in a mathematical equation. So, Tij is equal to Ti multiplied by Tij Gj all over the summation of Tix Gx, where Tij is the number of trips estimated from zone I to J. Then the small capital Ti is the present trip generation in zone I. Then the Gx is equal to growth factor of zone X. Ti or Tigi is equal to future trip generation in zone I. Then small letter Tix is equal to the number of trips between zone I and other zone X. Then small Tij is the present trips between zone I and zone J. Then Gj is the growth factor of zone J. So, we have here an example for forecasting trip using the Freighter method model. So, the problem is a study area consists of 4 zones A, B, C, and D An OD survey indicates that the number of trips between each zone is as shown in Table 12.17. Planning estimates for the area indicate that in 5 years, the number of trips in each zone will increase by the growth factor shown in Table 12.18, and that trip generation will be increased to the amount shown in the last column of the table. So the question is, determine the number of trips between each zone for future condition. So using the Freighter formula, we can calculate the number of trips between zones A and B, A and C, A and D, B and C, and C and D. So dito, kailangan natin i-note na yung two values are obtained for each zone pair, which is TAB and TBA. So these values are average, yielding a value for T sub AB is equal to TAB plus TBA divided by 2. So, gamit yung Freighter formula and yung itong average formula na to, makocompute na natin yung number of trips from zone A to B or zone B to A. So, given here, dito sa table, 12.17 which is the present trips between zone, and dito sa table 12.18 which is the present trip generation and growth factor, is yung mga data dito or yung mga value dito is isa-substitute lang natin dito sa Freighter formula. So sa unang step, we have here trip at A. So yung trip at A natin is 600. So, ilalagay lang natin siya dito. And yung growth factor natin sa A is 1.2. So, ito. Multiply. Or, pwede nyo na din naman siyang 720 yung ilagay since yung trip generation in 5 years is 600 multiplied by 1.2. So, next one is the trip at AB. So, trip at AB is babasa naman natin siya dito sa table 12.17. So, ang trip AB natin is 400 multiplied by growth factor at B. So, ang growth factor at B natin is 1.1. So, next is the summation of TAX, GX. So, trip at AB is trip at AB is still 400 and the growth factor at B is 1.1. Then plus the trip at AC is 100 multiplied by the growth factor at C, which is 1.4, plus trip at AD is 100 multiplied by growth factor at D is 1.3. So, pag kinalculate natin yan, ang makukuha nating sagot is 446. So, the same process dito sa TBA. Pag kinuha natin yung number of trip dito sa zone B to A, is ang makukuha nating sagot is 411. So, kapag nakuha na natin yung number of trips sa AB and BA, so, i-average na lang natin siya. So, ang gagawin natin formula is yung TAB is equal to TAB plus TBA over 2. So, substitute lang natin yung nakuha natin 446 and 411. Divide natin sa 2. Ang makukuha nating first estimate of trips between zone is 428. Yun yung sa AB. So, ito siya. AB, 428. AB, 428. So, the same process ng pag-compute using the Freighter formula and the average formula is makukuha natin si TAC na equal sa 141 and si TAD is equal to 124, si TBC is equal sa 372, and si TCD is equal sa 430. So, kapag nakuha na natin yung mga first estimate of trip between zone is kukunin lang natin yung total sa A, sa B, C, and D, which is the total trip sa A is 693, sa total sa B is 800, sa C is 943, and sa D is 544. So, pagkatapos nun is itong table na to is kakopy lang natin hihiwalay lang natin itong table na to. Kaya magiging table 12.20 na siya, which is the growth factors for second iteration. So, here, given itong mga value na to, makukuha natin yung growth factors for second iteration by using this formula. So, growth factor at A is equal to actual trip generation divided by the estimated trip generation. So, ang actual trip generation natin sa A is 720. I-divide natin siya sa estimated trip generation natin at A, which is 693. So, makukuha na natin yung growth factors for second iteration at A natin na 1.04. So, the same process using this formula, makukuha din natin yung growth factor for second iteration sa B na 0.96, sa C, which is 1.04, then sa D, which is 0.94. Kung mapapansin natin dito sa table 12.20, yung total trips for each zone is not equal to the values of future trips generation. So, for example, yung trip generation dito sa zone A is estimated as 693 trips, while yung actual trip generation niya is 720 trips. So, kaya naman, according to dito sa may growth factor model is that yung the calculation or yung calculation for the second iteration are left to the reader to complete, and the process can be repeated as many times hanggang sa yung estimate and actual trip generation values are close in agreement. So, next is the average growth factor model. A more general form of growth factor model than the Frater method is the average growth factor model. Rather than weighting the growth of trips between zones I and J by the growth across all zones, as is done in the Frater method, the growth weight of trips between any zone I and J is simply the average of the growth weights of this zone, which is mathematically expressed as the average Tij is equal to Tij multiplied by Gi plus Gj over 2. So, paano nga ba ina-apply itong average growth factor model? So, application of the average growth factor method proceeds similarly to that of the Frater method. As iterations continue, the growth factors converge towards unity. Dito, iterations can cease kapag yung acceptable degree of convergence in the values ay nakuha, which is one such practice is to continue until all growth factors are within 5% of unity. For example, is between 0.95 and 1.05. So that concludes my report. Thank you.